Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 268. There are no limits to what you can accomplish, except the limits you place on your own thinking. Brian Tracy.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my Indie Film Hustlers, to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Streamlit. Streamlit is a unique streaming service that is dedicated to indie films and watching the latest indie films. So if you guys want to see what other filmmakers are doing with low budget, no budget, micro budget films, then Streamlit is for you. These are real indie films, not Hollywood indie films playing as independent films. And if you are a filmmaker who has a short or feature film that needs distribution and you want to get in front of an audience, Streamlit is also for you. You can also upload your films there as well. And exclusive to the IFH tribe, you get a coupon code HUSTLE2018 to get a monthly subscription for just $2.99. That's streamlit.com. Today's show is also sponsored by Blackbox. Blackbox is a new platform and community that is all about financial freedom for filmmakers like you. If you join Blackbox, you will be transformed from being a worker to being a maker of your own content. And you'll be making steady passive income from the global market. Blackbox currently allows you to upload your stock footage once, get it to many global agencies, and then allows you to share that passive income stream with your collaborators. Whether you want to submit old footage that's been sitting around in your hard drives or create brand new content, Blackbox is for you. It's really quite revolutionary. With Blackbox, filmmakers can concentrate on making great content while Blackbox takes care of all the business BS. Just visit www.blackbox.global to find out more. So guys, today on the show, we have Drew Waters. Now, I wanted Drew to come on the show. He is a writer-director as well as an actor. Now, I wanted Drew to come on the show because he has a unique story, and this is something I really wanted to get out there to the tribe. Now, Drew started out his life in another career altogether. He was making a lot of money, doing a bunch of different retail businesses as well as commercial and residential construction companies with partners and all sorts of stuff. One day, at the age of 30, he woke up and realized he was extremely unhappy. And then he thought back to the moment when he was the happiest. And that turned out to be the time nearly 10 years earlier when he was acting in a commercial in Japan because he did some modeling early on in his career. And from that moment on, he said, screw it. I am going to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. And the next week, he sold all of his companies to his partners and started acting, directing, and producing. His first film was a D-horror movie for $3,500 that sold. And then it was followed up by another D-horror movie that was made for $1,500. And that was sold and made money. Then his next movie he made for $30K and sold it for $50,000. And now 14 years later, he's had over 60 plus acting credits, have produced 7 feature films, and is working with some of the best people in the business. And along with his producing partner, he's been able to produce and direct his first $2 million film called New Life. Now, I wanted to bring him on the show to not only talk shop, but just tell his story and to be this inspirational story of changing horses midstream. As they say, never change your horses midstream. But this man was making a lot of money doing what he didn't really love to do. He felt very empty in his life, and he decided to go after his dream. And anytime I could bring anybody on the show that decides to quit and leave everything they know in a reckless abandonment to chase their dreams is somebody I want on the show. It's someone I want to promote and I want to get their message out there because I feel so many people listening to this podcast right now are in a job that they hate, are doing something that they don't like, or they're just chasing money because they think that's the way to survive in this life. Now, I know we all have to pay bills. I get it. But when you start chasing your dream and finding out ways to make money with your dream, then everything else happens and it falls into place. And Drew is a perfect example of that. So please, without any further ado, please enjoy my inspirational talk with Drew Waters. I'd like to welcome to the show Drew Waters, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been listening to you for a while now. I love it.
I appreciate it. You told me that I'm helping you lose a little weight. I gotta fall into that same pattern myself.
Well, I got to tell you that I was getting fitted for a suit and I couldn't fit in it. I was like, oh my gosh, let myself go. So I started listening to you and it motivates me.
Oh, good. I got to motivate myself.
It's never too late.
So, Drew, you reached out to me and I was really taken by your story because I think it's a story that's so important for the tribe to listen to. Is that you were, and I'll tell you a little, I'll kind of give a lead in and then I'll let you take over. But basically what you told me was you were unhappy where you were in life and you were not following your passion and you decided to just follow your passion, which was filmmaking, acting, producing, directing, and get the ball rolling. Is that basically a kind of quick summary of it?
Yeah, that's a real quick summary of it. It took me till age of 30 to figure that out, but
So then what? At what point did you realize you were not happy, and you said something's got to change?
Yeah, I found myself chasing money, and I was being successful doing it, but I wasn't happy doing it. So I thought if I wrapped myself around more people that would want to chase money with me and build a business, I would find the happiness in it, and I wasn't. And in the process of all that, I was in Tokyo, Japan. Look, we'll backtrack real quick. I'll give you the short cliff notes of it. I get out of high school. I joined the military with the F-14 squadron. I do 4 in, 4 reserve. While I was in reserve, a friend of mine introduced me to the modeling world, and I'm thinking, nope, no way, right? I'm a Texas boy. They didn't care about that stuff, and I'm not wearing makeup and letting my brother find out about it.
Right.
And so, and this is the honest God truth. We're in the galley, sitting there eating. We're eating military stuff. We're eating breakfast, and my buddy goes, "Hey, I got a part-time job." And I go, "All right, what'd you get?" He goes, "I'm a modeling scout." I go, "You're a what?" I go, "I'm a modeling scout." I go, "What do you do?" He goes, "I don't know. I look for pretty people. I bring them in. I make money." I go, "Well, good luck." He goes, "I'm gonna bring you in." I'm like, "Nope." And I ended up going because he offered me to take me out and get me drunk. And
you're a cheap date. I got you.
Cheap date. Well, we were broke back then. Remember, we're in the military. We weren't making much.
Sure.
And he took me. I ended up signing with this agent. She took me down to this big convention. I won the daggum thing. I come back to my CEO, my chief, and officer. I said, I may or may not have done something that may or may not get me in trouble. He goes, "What'd you do?" And I showed him this contract that I had and these awards that I won. And he goes, "Is it legit?" I go, "I have no idea." So he found out, and it was legit. And I opted into staying in the military, finished my tour, and then after that, got a phone call, started traveling the world as a model.
That's amazing.
I still laugh about it. It is the funniest thing, man.
So the modeling world, when you were into the modeling world, how old were you at this point?
Like 22, 23.
Oh, so you were still down another path at this point. So you started modeling, and then you started chasing money with modeling, or with something, or with other companies or other things you were doing.
No, I mean the modeling business I was making a great living at, but I was shy. You're walking around the runways in underwear in Europe, and it was crazy. It was like I come from this small town, southern town of 3,500 people to the runways of Europe.
Sure.
And so, it's a shocking.
You think?
It's a big.
You think? I'm shocked.
Well, there's a whole lot of stories in between.
Oh, there's at least 2 or 3 books and at least 3 or 4 movies. I got you.
Well, but during the process, I'd come back and I was like, man, I want to open up something. And I had a couple men's fitness covers out, and I was like, that'd be a good idea. Let's open a gym. And my the situation at the time I was looking at it, I was like, well, let's take it a different direction. Let's open up a spa. And I opened up a spa, and doing well. One day a guy walks in and goes, "Hey, man, I like who built out your spa here. Who did it? I'm going to build one across town. I'd like to maybe talk to him." I go, "Well, I did it." And he goes, "Oh, really? You want to build mine?" I go, "Yeah, sure." So then I went from owning a spa to a construction company. And then I got flown back to Japan, and while I was in Japan, I was on a contract for a couple months in Japan. While I was in Japan, I did a commercial for Dell's computer. Mm-hmm. And I've never been on a commercial set. I've never been on any kind of movie set or television set.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
And I'm on this set, and I fell in love with the cameras. They were rolling 35s back then. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Just these monsters. And so in between takes, me and my translator would walk over there, and I'd ask a bunch of questions. You know, mm-hmm. They would translate in some kind of Southern accent. And, and I just fell in love with it. I came back prior to going. I did a campaign for Abercrombie and Fitch. Bruce Weber called me up and said, mm-hmm. "Hey, we're going to do a commercial. You want to get on it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to get on it." And I'm still chasing money. And during the process, intertwining all that stuff, I woke up one day and I was 30 years old, and I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I was miserable. Right. I had 3 retail businesses and partner a construction company with doing residential commercial ground ups with partners, and I wasn't happy. And when I was home, I wasn't home. Mm-hmm. And so I reflected back and just really thought about what made me the happiest. And I got to tell you, to this day, being on set in Tokyo, Japan of that commercial made me the happiest. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance on myself. My daughter's never too late to take a chance on yourself. I'm going to show her it's never too late to chase your passion and your dreams. And I did. 2 weeks later, I sold out my positions in the company to my partners, and I never looked back.
Wow, man. And what gave you the strength to do that, man? Because a lot of people, listening would just say you were living the dream. You had stability, you had money coming in, all the things that people think are important. But what gave you the courage, the fortitude to just say, you know what, I'm going to throw it. I'm just going to roll the dice.
I think it's because everybody's had a grandmother in their life that always said, "You're a little ham. You should be on TV. You should do this," right? So,
yeah, right.
So at a very young age, my grandmother would put that in my mind, and I don't know. I did everything because everybody else kind of guided me to it, and I never really took a chance on myself. Like, even the business. I just woke up one day and said, "I want to open business," and it wasn't like it was something I wanted to passionately do. I just wanted to do to make a financial, make us stable.
Sure.
And I never really chased my true passion. I didn't want to do modeling. I didn't know anything about it. It was just the money was great, and I got to travel around, but it was, people say, "Oh, you're just being, whatever." I'm like, I'm not. I was so insecure and shy during that whole process. How I worked and did campaigns, I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But acting, I knew that it stuck with me. That moment, it stuck with me, and I never really just took a chance on me, and right. and that's scary. I didn't know if I could act. I just said, "Screw it, I'm just going to try it." I know I could go back to the corporate world if I need to, or I'm an entrepreneur. I know I could figure out to open up another business or do something else.
Right.
But I didn't know if I could take a chance on myself to just lay it all on line on me.
The thing I wanted to point something out from the story that I'm picking up is that it's wonderful to follow your dream, but you had already gone through, a good amount of years, almost a decade since you were 20, building other companies, doing other things. So you had a foundation that you knew that if all else failed, you can go back to it. You had the skill set, you had tools in your toolbox to that you felt comfortable enough to jump in to a new venture, knowing that, hey, it's all good. If it all goes to crap, I still got something to fall back on. And you were kind of, smart about it in a sense, as opposed to being 18 and driving to Manhattan, getting out of the cab with 10 cents in your pocket and going, "I'm here."
Hey, if I wasn't so insecure and shy, I probably would have.
Right. Because we all hear that story from Madonna. Madonna just showed up in literally in Times Square with like $10 in her pocket, and she's like, "I'm arrived." And I'm like, that's wonderful, but that's called also a lottery ticket. That's right. That's the exception, not the rule. And every day here in LA, every day I meet guys and girls who just do that. They just show up, and some pop, but most don't. But what you did was a little bit more intelligent in the way you did it.
Well,
I mean, arguably. I'm just saying that.
Now I ask my partners for money for investments, so it's great. You know, it works out really well.
Yeah, you had a path. You definitely had a path that was laid out for you, and you chose to walk the paths and decided, look, I'm off this path now. I want to go start a new path. But that other path really did show you, teach you a lot, because you had already lived a bunch before you jumped into the business, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That was the important factor, I think, for me to get in this, because growing up, everybody has their stories growing up, but I was a pretty locked up kid. I quit crying at the age of 10. I just got angry inside, and every 6 months I'd blow up, and then I would be happy again and go on. And I realized early on I was good at building businesses, but not running them. You know, and so I'd have to just step away from it and trust that it would happen, but then I couldn't relinquish the control over it. And so being able to look back on that moment and say, there's no one to blame. There's no one at risk but myself at this point. So now's the time. I have some money in the bank. Now's the time. And I didn't go to the East or West Coast. Again, I'd never acted before in my life. I just knew I loved that moment. And so I got in front of every acting coach I possibly could in Dallas, Texas. And I started talking to casting directors, letting them know who I was, doing workshops, doing showcases. And I'll never forget the first thing I found it on Craigslist. And everybody's, don't go to Craigslist and find things. I found it on Craigslist. It was a horror movie.
Of course.
And it was like $3,500 was their budget, because we bought it was the Canon SD back then. It wasn't even HD yet. Anyways, it wasn't even the HD yet and stuff. So I met these guys, and I'm sitting there, and I'm dyslexic, and that was a big thing that held me out of this game for a long time. I thought I couldn't memorize things. I couldn't figure all that out. And so I get there, I'm nervous. They give me the script. I'm sitting there on the stairs reading it. People are coming in and out, and they go, "Drew, you ready?" I go, "No, give me a few more minutes." I'm sitting there reading it. What a leap for this thing! I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I didn't know what movies were even yet. Like, this is going to be amazing. I booked this, and I walk in, and my character is supposed to be reading across from this beautiful young lady, right?
Of course.
Well, here's this bearded old man sitting there as this beautiful young lady.
Of course. In the casting, of course.
I walk in and I go, "Oh, you guys are really challenging me, huh?" And they're like, "Hey, Drew." Yeah. I sit down, and I ended up booking this thing, and it was an incredible opportunity, because no one really knew how to make a movie. They just knew they wanted to, and they had a genre that they really liked. 2 locations. You put a bunch of hikers in the woods.
Sure.
This is a scientific killer worm that gets loose and starts eating them.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Through that process, we went through everything. You know, we went through all the highs and lows and everything else.
So it was kind of like a film school for you?
Do what?
Was it kind of like a film school for you?
It was absolutely. It was on-set film school. And we ended up putting this thing together, selling it to a sales agent out in LA that sold it overseas, and it made money. And she called us back one day. She goes, "Hey, can you make another one but dump a bunch of blood in it?" We're like, "Yeah."
So that was your first movie that you worked on, as far as as an actor and as a producer or something, or just as an actor?
I became actor, producer, gaffer,
craft service. Craft service. Got it. The whole thing. So you came in as an actor, but then fell into the behind the scenes, behind the camera aspect of things.
Yeah.
And then you did so how much did you make that movie? That was $3,500, and how much did you sell that for?
Well, we sold that one. I think it ended up doing like $86,000 for the run.
What year was that?
Oh God, it was way back. There's 15 years ago. So.
That's when money. Yeah, that's when horror movies were all you had to do is just make a horror movie, and it made obscene amounts of money.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going, "We just made a movie for $3,500 and it's sold. This is easy. We can do this all day." Exactly.
So then you make a second one, and how much did that cost?
$1,500.
And then how much did you sell that one for?
Well, about the same. It went. I think both of them together. It's out there today. You can go online. You can go to. It's selling in Canada and some box stores still. it got repackaged twice when Grindhouse came out, Rodriguez's film.
Yeah.
It came out. The distribution company repackaged it in like a popcorn 2-box offering deal.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
Like a drive-in theater theme, and it sold again. We're like, this is crazy.
So then tell me about that $30K movie that you made.
So a friend of mine said, hey, we're going to do a short. I was in between shooting Friday Night Lights and another project. No, I think I was just wrapping up Friday Night Lights and going to another project. And he goes, would you be in it? I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it. And it started out to be a short. It was just about, blue collar homeless in America and kind of touching on the hidden truth of it. Sure. And we got the footage. I mean, we were shooting on Reds. We had 2 cameras, full equipment, everything else. We had a 5-ton on that thing. And we raised $10,000. Mm-hmm. And we got the footage back and we were looking at it. We're like, this is really good. And so we stopped production for a week, wrote a feature and shot it out. And I'm not exaggerating, shot it out in 10 days. And the daggum thing went off to win like 14 different festivals. And E1 bought it for $50 and gave us an MG of $50,000 on it. And,
wow.
And so now I'm 3 for 3, right? I'm like,
so basically, so everyone listening, this is how it works. You come in, you fall into a part, then you become a producer. You make 1 movie, makes a lot of money. Make 2 movies, make a lot of money. Then you make a 3rd movie, makes a lot of money. This is the way all film stories go, correct?
No, because the horror's coming in. I mean, the real horror story's coming in.
Oh, we haven't gotten to the real horror story yet? Okay. So you sold it. Go ahead. So continue.
Yeah, so we sold it to E1. It did well. It's still out there again. It's selling. We get little penny checks here, and it's funny that when you get a .01 check.
Oh, it's like the old episode of Seinfeld where all he got was checks of like penny checks, and he had like thousands of them from some job he did in Japan, and he had to endorse all of them, and it was killing him.
It's the craziest thing. You're like, it costs more to mail this thing. Why did you just look at it?
Just exactly.
But from there, I started meeting a lot of people in Louisiana. I started getting out to LA more, and then it just kept progressing. And one of my dear mentors and dear friends in life, he drove his truck to Hollywood one day, became a PA on Universal a lot, and now he's the executive producer. And he said, hey, Drew, I want to do a movie. Will you come on and be associate producer on it and lead actor in it? I'm like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. We made this movie thinking it was going to do incredible. And he called in all his favors. I won't give you the budget, but it's below $500,000. Mm-hmm. Looks amazing. It's about a dog and a kid and a Christmas story.
I mean, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Well, this is when I learned how to really pay attention to distribution and sales agents.
Oh, here it comes. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. So what should have been a no-brainer, we had enough attachments. At the time, my IMDb score was low enough, and I had enough recognition coming off these other things. We're thinking, this is a no-brainer. It's a kid and a dog movie, under $500,000, like way under $500,000.
You should do very well.
Dude, we should at least break even.
Sure.
Nah, that didn't happen because we found out the truth about distribution and sales agents. I didn't have that much experience with distribution companies and sales agents at the time. And so we trusted the friendship. And unfortunately, that was the hard lesson to learn. But
so, all right, so can you give us any details in regards to what happened with the sales rep, what they did, in as much as you can say publicly, and what happened with the distribution company as much as you can say publicly?
Well, it was you're supposed to get quarterly reports. You're supposed to have, nowadays and stuff, the reputable sales agents and distribution companies, at least it's kind of an open book policy. Quarterly reports, you can cap their marketing spends. You can make sure you have a big say in it. Back then, we didn't think to ask any of those questions. And so it kind of just, we don't know what happened to the film. And legally, we could go and audit and sue and do all this stuff. But the reality of it is, what would we actually get? We decided maybe not, since it was a lesson learned, we get the movie back. It's now been, and that's the other thing, we signed a
7 years?
12 year.
Oh, it was 12 years.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh,
but I think so.
God. You should have been listening to my podcast back then. It wasn't available, but still. My God, I've got like 4 or 5 episodes just dedicated, let alone articles written about this stuff.
Thanks for letting me make all these mistakes, Alex. I appreciate it, buddy.
Even though you weren't around. Damn it, man.
Oh, now you're making excuses? What is this?
Just call me Marty McFly. Anyway, I gotta go back in time. So you sign a 12-year distribution deal with no caps on anything, which basically gave them carte blanche to never pay you a dime.
Yeah, and I mean, it went to a big. The sales agent took it to a big distribution outlet. It just got squashed.
Sure.
Because we don't know what the date is. The good news is now we're smarter, we're older, we're smarter.
Sure.
It's funny how you grow and you get burned a few times and you learn.
And those are the burns that leave the scar.
Oh.
They leave a scar because if it's not a big burn, because I got shafted $10,000 by a sales agent, a producer's rep, and she never barely did anything for me. And that was like episode 6. If you go back to episode 6, you just hear me rant and rave about, look, there's good producer reps out there, but these sons of bitches, and this is what's going on, and blah, 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 blah. And I laid into it. And I never forgot that. So now when you walk into, and I've done many movies, but every time I go into a distribution deal, my eyes are wide open.
Yeah. You know what I do? Here's my first approach. If we make a movie and stuff, we get people making offers and everything else, I'll go to their site, I'll look at the genre they cover, and I'll find a couple films that match the genre that we're looking at them repping, and I'll call the producers.
Yep.
And I'll just simply ask the simple question: how did you like the experience? And whoever has the least amount of complaints is who I'll start with.
Oh, by the way, that producer's rep, I got a lot of filmmakers calling me over the years about that producer's rep. And I'm like, run, stay away. So it does come back around. But yeah, that's a great way of doing it. And that's a great advice for anyone listening. If you are going to go into a deal with a distribution company, unless it's a huge monster company, and even then the deal has to be really laid out nicely, like upfront guarantees and things like that.
Right.
But you should always call up other filmmakers, other producers, other directors who've worked with that company and find out what their experience is like, because that's the best way to tell. It's basically Yelp for distribution companies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to take it one step further is know your genre and know the distribution company that wants to take it out, even if it is a big conglomerate, but yet they're not strong in that genre.
Yeah, Disney's not going to. Yeah, Disney's not pushing horror movies.
Yeah, it's like, sure, it's going to get thrown out there everywhere, but if it doesn't perform, it's going to get shelved. You're not going to get the momentum you want unless you have enough marketing dollars to help the momentum along. Now,
did you ever self-distribute any of your projects?
We never self-distributed those. Our latest film, we held out a lot of rights because our company does a lot of family value, PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
Our claim to fame is we don't do any gratuitous objectable content.
Okay, good.
And so we're known in that space. My business partner is Erin Bethea, and she was the lead actress in Fireproof, and so she comes from the background where the Kenrick brothers and her dad's the executive producer, and I come from the general world, and I got tired of getting pushed to HBO specials wanting to take my clothes off. My daughters couldn't watch it, and so we decided to make something that families can sit down and enjoy together.
So tell me a little bit about your new film. It's called New Life. What was the budget? How did it all come together?
We did that one for 1.5.
Okay.
And we raised $2 million. We pulled our own P&A.
Oh, that's nice. What a smart move. Oh, 25% of the budget is going into P&A, which is publicity and advertisements for anyone listening. And so smart. So smart.
I tell you what, it's sure we could have used more, but what we had was such a blessing, because if we didn't have that, the movie would not have been, and still is, being successful like it has been so far. But New Life, it came about from a personal experience. I mean, the long story short is I was just coming off of a TV series, and I was in LA, and I was just finding myself not happy with my career, and it was dragging a little bit, not going the direction I kind of wanted to. And I was confused, and, management agencies, everybody's in your ear, and you kind of.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
You kind of absorb all that, and I was ready to purge or get out of it. And so one night I decided to drive to Santa Barbara, and I found myself in the wine country up there, and I found a bed and breakfast. And I had a glass of wine sitting next to the tub, looking at a blank wall, going, "What are you doing, man? What do you want to do with your life? You sold your businesses, your daughters, you're raising them, but what do you want to do? What's the end goal here? What's your accomplishment here?" And I started thinking, I want to do a festival. I want to do something. I want to take something that has meaning and leave something. And I said, well, what wins Cannes? Cannes seems like the way to go. And I said, usually it's a European truth and emotion with a little bit of American flair. And I was like, okay, it's what bothers you right now the most. And I lost my grandfather 6 years prior, and he was my best friend. And he died of a broken heart. And he outlived 2 loves of his life. And so I sit there, and I in my mind, I'm just thinking all this, and I close my mind, and I imagine the short of flashbacks and coming through the, just everything happening and stuff like that. When I opened my eyes, I was crying. I go, all right, let's go write that. And so I came back home and found a couple that are writers, and I told them the story and asked them, hey, you wanna write this for me? And they wrote the short, and I was all set to make it. And then I met Erin. I got booked for a lead role in a 1890 Western out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Erin was the lead actress in it. And I started pitching her on the short, and she said, "Why are you going to do a short? No one sees those." I go, "Well, yeah, they do." And we started having that argument, and she talked me into writing a feature, and the rest is history.
One thing I'm finding fascinating, I'm seeing a pattern in your life, Drew, that I see a pattern in your life where you really go with your gut. You listen to your gut, and the second that inspiration or whatever comes into your mind, you don't fight it. Generally, you just go, and I think it served you fairly well in your life. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. It's when I stopped fighting my gut is when I started being successful. Really, I have less headaches now.
Right.
I don't. Listen, my life's not peaches and cream.
No, none of us are. No, look, none of us are. But just general, there are aspects of our life that are flowing, and some that are not.
Well, I think that's important, though. It's just because you have one or something that stops you, figure out a way around it. I'm a problem solver now. I am by nature somebody that likes fixing things, and so when I see something in my life that's a problem, I figure out a way around it. I figure out a solution to it. The worst word that I could hear is no. I hate that word because it's the best and worst, I'll say, because if somebody tells me no, and I know in my head that I can make that happen that way, or I will go out of the way, take the long way around to make it happen that way, to just prove the point that it can't happen that way. So hopefully don't say no to somebody else,
And there's hardly ever a no in this business, right?
No.
And now you rarely ever hear anyone say no or a negative energy at all in the film industry.
What's that word?
Exactly.
You want to hear? Here's the funny story, and for everybody out there. I was coming. I was hustling. Your show is perfect example of what you need to do to hustle. If you're waiting for somebody else to hand it to you, then just go do something else, because they're never going to hand it to you. You got to go out there and make it happen. Sure, people get lucky and they're right place, right time. A lot of my stuff has been luck, but every step of the way, I can tell you where I was hustling during the process of it as well. And I was hustling. I was recur on Friday Night Lights. I just did Breaking Bad. I was coming off of another show another movie out in L.A. And I decided to go out to a movie in Louisiana. And I decided to go out to L.A. And my agent set up all these general meetings with all the casting directors of the networks. I'm like, this is awesome. And I started talking to them and going back and forth. And I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to tell the network. But this is the honest God truth. I get into my last meeting. And I'm all excited, pumped up. Everything's been going great. And I give him my spiel. I'm like, wow, this is all and everything else. And he put his finger up and he goes, Drew, it sounds all great and everything else. He goes, but when are you going to stop playing around and take your career seriously? And I went, what?
What?
Yeah. And I grant you, I'm coming off all these shows thinking I'm on a high right now.
Right.
He goes, when are you going to take your craft seriously? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, when are you going to come out here, get a waiter job, pay your dues until you get lucky and somebody, finds you and
discovers you.
And excuse my French, but he pissed me off so bad. I literally stood up and I sat there with that awkward, pause for a moment. And I looked at him and I went, fuck you, man. And I started walking out. And then I got mad. I turned back around and I let him have it. I was like, you can't tell me I ain't taking it seriously when my kids, I'm hustling for them. I'm out here doing this. I leave this office and I go work on a network show right now without you. It's all this other stuff. And then at the end of it, he goes, all right, Drew, I see you're passionate. I get it. And he called me in, for multiple shows after that. And it was like a mind screw. I think what it is, and they do this sometimes in Hollywood, is there are some producers and casting people, and especially with actors, but also with directors and writers, is they'll test you to see if you have a spine, to see if you have any passion behind you, because they see 1,000 pretty faces a day, and they see 1,000 talented directors and writers a day. But what's going to make you stand out? And they will push you just to see what you'll do. And because you reacted the way you did, if you would have walked out with your tail between your legs, that would have been the end of it. Yeah.
But because you did what you did, he called you back a bunch of. And I'm assuming you guys became at least cordial with each other.
Oh yeah, I had his personal number. I could call him. I mean, it was like, hey, all right, we got that out of the way. Let's just go ahead and do some stuff then. I don't recommend doing that for anybody listening. I do not recommend.
Don't curse out. Generally, don't curse out the producer of a show, a network executive, an agent or manager in a big agent. Just try not to. But
be nice to everyone because they could be running the show, in 2-3 years.
Especially the assistants. Always be nice to the assistant. One thing I realized too, doing what I do, is that you're right that you don't have to. You can't wait for someone to hand things to you. You definitely have to go out and do it. But what I've seen, at least in my experience doing what I'm doing, with not only with Indie Film Hustle but with my movies, is that when you start doing your own stuff, and when you start making your own opportunities, other doors open. Other opportunities present themselves that would have never presented themselves unless you were working and out in the spotlight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that happen to you a lot?
No, it absolutely. I take every opportunity, no matter what. I'm actually NCIS just called me back. I got a recurve position on NCIS. That's on awesome. Character at NCIS LA. But I literally got that phone call. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and my agent called me and said, Drew, tomorrow morning producers want to see you in the room for this new character. And I had to make a decision then whether to fly out that night, take the red eye into LA to make that happen and stuff. And I never thought twice. I said, absolutely, it's an opportunity. I'm going to go do it. And now look at me. They didn't kill him off the first episode. That's usually a good
good sign.
Hey, he might come back.
He might come back.
And I'm going back. So.
That's awesome, man. And what I love about your story, man, is that you weren't just satisfied with being an actor. You went all in. You went all in. You want to be a director. You want to be a producer, and an actor, and just enjoy everything that this business has to offer, man. And I do applaud you, man, because there is a lot. I promise you, there's a lot of people listening, and a lot of people who aren't listening, who don't have the courage yet to do it. And I say yet because they have to build up to that moment, but that they take that risk in life. And I wanted you on the show because I wanted to show an example of someone who threw caution to the wind and just said, you know what, I'm going to follow my passion. And because I'm not happy now. And how many people do you know personally in your life, Drew, that are not happy with where they are? They could be rich as all hell.
Yeah.
They could be surrounded by beautiful women or beautiful men, and they'd be flying around in jets and vacationing and drinking champagne around the world, but are dead inside or unhappy. Now, by the way, there's also very happy people who do all of that as well. But generally speaking, how many people do you know that like that? We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
I mean, I can't count them on both my hands, so I have to take my shoes off.
Exactly. In this business, definitely.
Everybody puts on a persona. Well, not everybody, but
no, everybody now on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, everyone puts on a persona.
Yeah,
everyone's life is perfect.
Yeah, and that's not the case. And you know, when I got into this industry, I went to therapy for 6 months just to just to break out of my shell. You know, get out of my head, get out of my subconscious, just break me back down to reality. Sad truth is now I cry at everything. Puppies make me cry. It's like it's ridiculous, but I'm very in touch with my personal side now. So yeah.
Yes, as you should. But as an actor, you have to be able to tap into those things.
I think at anything though, why limit yourself? Why if you're going to do it, do it. You know, don't go. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready yet. Well, maybe you're not ready to take on, like, I love the steps you take. Start out small, work your way up. Mm-hmm. And that way you can continue to grow. The people that are around you believing in you now will continue to believe in you. Don't be scared of failures. Learn from them and step forward. If you are passionate about something, if you're easy to work with in this industry and you're good at your job because no one wants to waste time on you and you don't have an ego, I mean, likability is a big factor in all levels.
Huge,
man.
Huge. I'll take someone who's less talented, but I can work with. That is the most talented MFer in the world.
If you think it's all about talent, man, give it up. It's not.
It's not.
But you have to have talent. We're not saying that to say you don't have to have talent, but it's how creative are you? I mean, there's a million different directors out there. Producer. I'm taking my career towards the directing side. I love acting and directing. That's my two favorite things. Mm-hmm. Cinematography is my third, but I dabble in it all because the reason why I opened a production company is because I wasn't getting the offers for the roles I wanted to take. We were sitting in the room with people you'd recognize on television and stuff, and the door would open into the casting room, and you'd hear them making an offer out to a person with an agency before the door opened. And then the door would open and say, "Hey, Drew, come on in." I'm like, "You sure? It sounds like you got the guy." I'm like, No, come on in. We can do this. But we had to wait for that to drop off, then hope no one else picked it up to give us a shot at it. Right. And then there's 100 million factors that you have to go through whether or not you get it. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to take that factor out of the equation and open my own production company because I was passionate about it and I had a story I wanted to tell and I had people believing in me and I built up the knowledge and I built up the crew following and the creative following to do so.
How important do you think it is for filmmakers today to understand and be an entrepreneur?
I think you have to have it in your portfolio. I mean, I say this all the time. I talk on a lot of panels about financing and distribution now and stuff. And And the biggest thing is if you as a producer or a creative takes an investor's money without having any understanding of how you're going to recoup it, you're basically stealing it. You're basically stealing it.
Correct.
It's our job as producers. The best way to do it, the way we approach things now is we get paper. All we need is paper. I need agreement that you'll commit based off of these contingencies are met. And once that's done, then I'm greenlit. But it's my job as a producer to go now, because I have it on paper, to go now get the agencies to attach the cast that I need, to get my distribution, to be able to look at the market strong and get a realistic number between our low high, and not over evaluate it and really understand that. Start talking to my television distribution deals and all my outlets, tax incentives, branding integration, all that stuff, before I agree to take that money. And my job, if I do it right, now I'm only putting high side 30% equity at risk.
Right.
And I have a backstop against it somewhere. Mine is usually on domestic, but I have a backstop somewhere. And it's a chicken and egg scenario, the chicken being the money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have somebody that believes in you, instead of just taking that money, making something and hope it's going to stick, and people are going to watch it, go. Once you have the money, half the battle's over. You can now call any agent you want to and have a conversation because you have
absolutely.
money. The doors open up for you. You don't need to spend that money just yet. You could talk to them, or you can talk to casting directors, or you can have these conversations. You can start high, and you'll figure somewhere in the middle that you'll land. Somebody will say, "Yeah, I'll take a chance on this. Let's do this." And then you start climbing the ladder again,
building your portfolio.
Yeah.
Now you're not just a filmmaker with a dream. You're a filmmaker who's actually made successful movies, and it doesn't matter at what level. I mean, it could be simply a $1,500 movie that made $10,000, and a $10,000 movie that made $20,000, or obviously your standard $1,500 movie that made $86,000.
Well, no, hey, not everyone can make a bad D horror movie. I'm telling you,
and make obscene amounts of money with it.
Here's what we learned: you throw a bad CGI worm in there, like a killer worm.
I could only see. I could see it in my head. I've never seen it, but we're talking about what 15 years ago.
Oh, it's bad. Unexperienced film crew and actors and everything else. I will say it's not the worst thing out there. It's not the worst thing. But it's close. It's close. But I could only imagine what that CG worm looked like 15 years ago at not a high level. I'm sure the VFX crew. You know those kids.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what we bought. We bought those kids. We got it off of I think Home Depot, where the kids crawl through it. We got that, and then we put this. We figured out how to make this kind of blur special effect kind of blob thing around it, and that's what we put around it.
Oh my God!
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's fantastic.
I did my own stunts. That's how I started getting. I got into stunt work, so I did my own stunts.
What don't you do, Drew? What don't you do?
You got to do it all, man. Enjoy life.
You know what? And that's something I say to people all the time. I have a toolbox that I've been putting tools in since I got into this business. And I have an immense amount of tools that I've, like Liam Neeson, I have a certain set of skills that I've acquired over time, that I am able to use on all of my projects. So I can't go out and make a $3,000 movie because I can do a lot of the heavy lifting myself because of the tools I'm able to do. And if you don't have that education, you don't have those tools, it becomes a lot harder. So, and you being who you are, you've picked up a lot of tools along your way, and those help you along the path.
You know what? I'll tell you some of the funnest moments I've ever had in this industry so far are making those very, very low budget, no budget independent projects, because it's a collaboration. The stress is a lot lower on those than it is on a $2 million project.
Oh God, yes. Yes, I know that.
There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of stress, but doing those, it's passion. It's a group of a small group that of like-minded people that come together to create something. And anybody can do it nowadays. Technology has come so far and they're so advanced that anybody can do it nowadays. You just got to do it. And it may not be great the first time, or it may be great the first time. There's platforms that you can put it on there for free and there's just drive traffic to and start talking about it. But if all you're doing is talking about it and not doing it, you're never going to get it. You're never going to experience it. Just shut up and start doing it. Is like what I've always told people is just, how did you do it? Because I shut up and I just did it. I just started doing it. I didn't know anything. I am a prime example of, I never went to college. I was in the military. I was a small Southern boy that used to rodeo, running through the woods with cut off shorts and hatchets. It's like,
right.
And I woke up 30 years old going, I'm going to take a chance on myself. And I just put the mindset of business in front of my ability to act or the creative side. And I just long the steps, figured it out on the creative side. And I'm a true creative when it comes to that stuff. Aaron is more of our production side of our company. I'm a true creative.
Right.
But I have a huge Rolodex of people that I can call to fill my gaps.
Correct.
And I still do those no budget projects because they're so much fun. And I think that's when some of the best creatives come out of.
I think,
Collaboration is king in my world.
no, absolutely. I always compare it to like carny folk, carnival folk or circus folk on those kind of small budget films, because you get all these lovely personalities who are just wonderful, and they're all just trying to get we're trying to get the tent up for the show. We're trying to get the tent up for the show because the show's happening tonight. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. And that's the mentality. It's not like with a big budget movie that you've got cranes to put the tent up and everyone's got air conditioned this or caviar that. It's just, we're just on the ground, just trying to get that tent up and put on a show. That's what I love about it.
You said something great in one of your podcasts I was listening to. You said, use what you have.
Absolutely.
Use what you have. Don't try to reinvent the wheel or anything else. Use what you have and become as creative as you possibly can within that space.
Absolutely.
And create great content. And great content doesn't mean necessarily high quality. It doesn't have to be shot on Reds or 4Ks or
iPhone.
8Ks out there now.
iPhone. Shoot on your iPhone.
Create good sound, creative content that moves people. Tell a story. Visually tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
So, Drew, I have a few questions I have to ask all of my guests. So it's going to be kind of our rapid fire questions. What advice would you give a filmmaker wanting to break into the business today?
Just do it. Believe in yourself and do it. Right now around you, you probably have about 5 to 10 people. If you started just talking to your friends and everything else, that would probably help you out. And sit down, figure out the concept, and do it. What you're carrying in your hand, or you can go out and succeed with.
Now, can you tell me a book that had the biggest impact on your life or career?
I can tell you the book I'm reading now.
Fair enough.
And don't laugh. It's the big bad book of Bill Murray. I'm
sure that's amazing. I love Bill Murray. He's a god. Bill Murray's a god, man. I love Bill.
The fact that he has a 1-800 number and leave a message and he may call you back is amazing.
Does he have a 1-800? Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I'll send it to you.
No. Send me I'll put it in the show notes, everybody. That is brilliant. I would love to call Bill Murray. Just go look at it. I don't know if you're going to hear this or not, but come on. You got to come back, man, please. We're in desperate need of some humor in this world today.
Oh, my gosh. I have 3 dreams in life. I want to work with Clint Eastwood. I want to work with Bill Murray and Richard Curtis.
Nice. All right. What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film industry or in life?
Be humble and believe in yourself. The believe in yourself thing is the biggest thing. Don't sell yourself short. Life is too short when it comes down to it. Don't find your passion late in life and wish that you would have spent, younger years chasing it. Do it now. Oh,
I agree. I always tell people whenever I meet a filmmaker on the street and they come up and ask me, like, what do you do? I'm like, look, dude. And they're young. I go, look, tomorrow morning, they're like 20 years old or 25 years old. I'm like, tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to be 40.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're going to wake up and you're going to be 55. And you're still going to be what if. Don't do what I did. It took me until I was 41 to get my first feature made because of all the stuff I had to deal with. But when I was ready, I hit the ball roll. I hit the ground running, kind of like what you did at 30, which I wish I would have done at 30. But yes.
That's it. And it's never too late. That's the thing.
Never too late.
It's never too late. Just go do it now.
Now, this is the toughest question. Obviously, what are 3 of your favorite films of all time?
Easy.
Oh, good.
Easy. Unforgiving.
Oh, yes, Unforgiven. Amazing movie.
It's not just because I'm a Clint Eastwood fan, but it's my all-time favorite Western. I watch that on repeat constantly.
Absolutely. It's so good. So good.
Love Actually.
Oh, because every Christmas you have to watch Love Actually.
I'm a romantic.
It's such a good movie.
I'm a hopeless romantic.
Such a good movie.
It really is. And it's, of course, it's...
did you see the sequel? Did you see the little mini sequel they did?
I did, yeah.
Oh, it was so good to watch that little mini sequel. It was so brilliantly done. Oh, I loved it.
I just love anything they do. I mean, to be able to work with them, I think they're brilliant. I just think that whole crew over there is brilliant.
Yeah.
And then the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, there you go, man. That's on my top 3.
You can't get tired of it.
No, you could watch. If it's on, I put on. Just let it roll. Just throw the mic off, throw the remote away, and just let it watch. Just go.
Listen, when my girlfriend gets mad at me for leaving dishes in the sink and I clean them, I'm watching that.
Absolutely. No question about it. And I always tell people too, because a lot of people, I'm sure you've dealt with this, sometimes you get beat up by critics or about your films or about your performances or things like that. And they critique you and they beat you up a bit. Anytime that ever happens to me, I just go to Google and go, bad review, Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
And then I go and read that and I feel so much better. Because obviously, I'm not comparing my work to Shawshank Redemption by any stretch, but it makes me feel like, you know what? Even Shawshank Redemption had haters. So, yep. and I always tell people if I meet them, I'm like, do you like Shawshank Redemption? Well, no, I don't really like it. I'm like, unfortunately, we can't be friends. I'm sorry. It's just, if you're dead inside. You're dead inside. I'm sorry, you're dead.
And goodbye.
And you're dead inside. I'm sorry, goodbye.
Hey, listen, you don't make movies or in television for critics. You make them for the audience.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Look, that's the important thing. Grab your audience, find who that is, and give it to them.
Absolutely. Well, question. And now, where can people find you and your work, Drew?
You can go to drewwaters.com, which leads back to all roads. ArgentumEntertainment.com, and it's ARGENTUM entertainment.com. And then Drew Waters 13 is my handle on all the social medias. But if you guys want to go to Argentum Entertainment, sign up for our newsletter because we're in pre-production on a new film this fall. And then we have another film next spring that we're shooting in Ireland. So we're going to be sending out, if people are in Atlanta, we're going to be sending out requests for background and cast and things like that through some of them. So it's a good opportunity. And
are these new films have a dog and a Christmas movie by any chance? No.
One of them does. We're making one in Michigan that's coming up. Actually, I can't talk about it heavily and stuff, but I'm so excited because it's kind of like an FU, in the face of the first one, because I mean it meant so much to us and everything else, and so we're gonna do a repeat with it, but with a smarter approach of who we're taking it out with.
I would hope you've learned something since then.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Drew, man, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. You've really. I hope it really lights a fire under everyone who's listening to this right now. It's never too late. You can always follow your passion. You can always follow your dream, and be happy in life. And I think it honestly is the most important thing is to find that happiness. To find, as Joseph Campbell said, find your bliss. Find that thing. Do you agree?
The truth of it is if you find what you love, you never work a day. This industry is cutthroat. It's hard. There's a lot of no's, like you said, and there's a lot of lost hours in between. Mm-hmm. But I don't work. I have fun. I get to do things that I'm so passionate about. So just go out and believe in yourself. And if you're making excuses, that's all there is excuses. There's nothing that should hold you back in today's technology. Money, it doesn't matter. Money, it doesn't matter. Anything else, go make something.
Absolutely, man. Drew, thanks again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Drew, thank you so much for being on the show, man. You are an inspiration. You go out there and you hustle every day, man. I don't know if I would have the fortitude to leave everything that you had to leave at 30 to follow your dream. So thank you for being an inspiration to the tribe, to me, to everyone who's listening to this episode. And if you want to get links to anything we discussed in this episode, head over to indiefilmhustle.com/268. There you can see the trailer for his new film, The New Life, as well as the links where to rent, buy, and watch that movie, and contact information for Drew. Thanks again, Drew. And guys, if you haven't already, please, I'm going to say it one more time, go to filmmakingpodcast.com and leave the show a good review. It really, really helps the show out a lot in the rankings and getting more and more people to hear this information. It's so, so important to share this kind of information with filmmakers, screenwriters, and anybody who wants to be in this business. So thank you guys for all your support. And by the way, I have been reading the reviews you guys have been leaving, so thank you so much. I do read all of the reviews, so please leave those reviews at filmmakingpodcast.com. Thank you guys again so much for all the support. And as always, keep that hustle going. Keep that dream alive. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.